The next big Mac rumor seems to be all about the MacBook Air, at least if this past week is to be believed. That's because everybody seems to be talking about what's going to happen with the next generation of the MacBook Air. And, well, we have that and also the M2, what we think will be the next generation of Apple Silicon for their consumer based Macs. This week, Bloomberg's Mark Gurman said he thinks that Apple will have the much anticipated redesign of the MacBook Air come out with a new updated M2 sometime in the second half of 2022. Ming-Chi Kuo is also predicting a second or third quarter launch of a tweaked MacBook Air, although he still thinks it's going to come with a slightly updated M1 processor and not an M2, although he did agree that it will have the new colors and the all-new form factor that everybody has been talking about. We're expecting more of that flat, squared edge design, something that more matched like the iPad Air. For the next year, in 2023, display analyst Ross Young came out and said that Apple might be considering a larger version of the MacBook Air in a 15-inch form factor. This is along with slightly bigger versions of the 10-inch iPad and also the MacBook Air 13-inch, although that 13-inch version of the MacBook Air, Young says, could be coming this year. He thinks that Apple is going to put in a slightly larger display thanks to the redesign and what would probably be reduced bezels. He says Apple could bump the MacBook Air 13-inch display up from 13.3 inches to 13.6 inches. Young also told Mac Rumors that neither of the new MacBook Air models will feature a mini LED display or ProMotion technology. Ming-Chi Kuo then said that the 15-inch version of that MacBook Air may not even be called the MacBook Air, failing to say exactly what name Apple would give it, although speculation is that they may just simply drop the Air and bring back the MacBook. He said that Apple's goal would be to have it use the same 30-watt power adapter as the current 13-inch MacBook Air, so it would be incredibly power efficient, and I would imagine Apple may at that point move to mini LED display and possibly the ProMotion technology, although with the power restrictions that could be a bit more challenging. Along with the new MacBook Air with M2 in the fall, Mark Gurman is also expecting Apple to update the iPad Pro from M1 to M2 around the same time. He says that an M2 iPad Pro would have MagSafe charging as well, which would be the first time Apple brought MagSafe to an iPad. The M2 is expected to have CPU cores that are roughly the same as the current M1 processor, 8 cores with 4 high-performance cores and 4 high-efficiency cores. But even though it will have the same number of cores, it's still expected to get some performance gains and some efficiency gains thanks to using TSMC's new 4-nanometer manufacturing process versus the 5-nanometer process that the M1 is currently using. On top of that, it is expected that Apple will bump the GPU cores in the M2 from 7 or 8 to 9 or 10, which should offer a nice jump in GPU performance. So new M2 systems still expected to come probably this year and probably in the form of at least a MacBook Air. But I would have to imagine that if they're going to update the Air with an M2, they're also going to update the Mac Mini and the 13-inch MacBook Pro, or at least that would be my hope. Although, again, all of the rumors this week seem to be largely focused on the MacBook Air update along with the M2 processor. So we're just going to have to wait and see what Apple does in the fall.